Phil McGraw, holder of a PhD in clinical psychology. Psychology is a pretty valuable thing when you think about it. It helps us understand the world around us, why people do some of the things they do, and it also helps us to better maintain good mental health. So God bless Dr. Phil for taking his expertise to the place where he can help people the most. Reality TV. I never really used to give Dr. Phil any thought, but more recently he's forced me to think about him and his show in ways that, well, have obviously inspired me to make this video.
Hello there.
Firstly, about 2 years ago now, there was this part of the show.
Catch me outside!
2016 was just a horrible year all around, wasn't it? Now in 2018, because I still watch PewDiePie, yep, you got me, I'm 9 years old, I've been shown some more awful guests on his shows, like the sexy vegan YouTuber, some 15-year-old girl who wants to be a YouTuber. Like, what the fuck? That's a non-issue. Most of us want to be a successful YouTuber at some point, don't we? She's 15. She's not even fully mature. She's just been a rebellious teenager, basically, isn't she? Oh, and let's not forget the girl that claimed she was pregnant with baby Jesus. And the one who thought that Eminem was her dad. Oh wait, that's the same fucking girl. Can you at least try a little bit harder to be believable, Dr. Phil? This show has basically devolved into pure attention whoring. And worst case scenario, it's also stigmatizing and exploiting mental illness. Okay, it's definitely not that, because people like this clearly are not mentally ill. They're just dropkicks with nothing better to do, trying to get their 15 minutes of fame, or more in the case of Bad Baby. I think most people with actual mental health problems wouldn't agree to go on a national talk show, would they? Besides, I'd figure that actual mental illness sufferers wouldn't make for very good television. It'd either be boring or just straight up sad and unsettling to watch. These people on Dr. Phil, with very, very little doubt in my mind, are actors. Sure, it's not a new concept for reality TV. It's been happening for decades, probably even since the beginning of reality TV itself. But it's still stupid. What's also a bit concerning to me is that Dr. Phil does appear to have had some real discussions about actual serious issues. Like just in the past month or so, his official YouTube channel has some videos discussing suicide, alcoholism, and sexual assault. And plenty of people have talked about how Dr. Phil's advice, or even appearing on Dr. Phil itself, has truly helped their lives. But those videos are alongside, "I'm going to do what I want to do," says 16-year-old. Isn't that every 16-year-old? Our daughter is brainwashed by a man who envisions himself being the king of a commune of women. Should we call the police on this guy? No, let's just go on Dr. Phil and talk about it. Yeah, that's the best thing to do about this. Man convicted of Nope. I mean, it's good to make people aware of an issue like this, but maybe you should do it in a more tasteful way. But obviously I want my main focus to be on the spoiled brats and the wannabe YouTubers that go on the show. Those episodes of Dr. Phil, of course, create a content gold mine for commentary channels, even though at this stage it's kinda like low-hanging fruit. But there's nothing wrong with it really, they have every right to do that. However, I have noticed that aside from a couple of videos like this one from I'm Alex, the main trend in Dr. Phil related commentary is making fun of the guests on the show rather than the show itself for enabling these guests to be idiots on live TV. Probably wouldn't bother me at all if Dr. Phil presented itself as a show like Jerry Springer or Maury or Jeremy Kyle. Those are pretty trashy shows, but I don't think they're really making any effort to hide that, are they? But it does appear that Dr. Phil is trying to be a serious TV show and trying to actually help people, which it does manage to do sometimes. But then it pulls all of this inane bullshit to blatantly attract more viewers above all else. Is this what we really want from a qualified psychologist? But wait, it turns out that he isn't actually professionally practicing psychology anymore, and that he's made it clear that he doesn't need that kind of license to run his show because it clearly involves entertainment rather than psychology. It's alright, I'm not actually practicing psychology no more, so it's not like I'm making the whole profession look bad. So fuck you, I'm gonna keep making my shitty TV show. Also, back when he was practicing psychology, he was found to have hired one of his own former patients. Probably not the most disgraceful thing you could do as a psychologist, and maybe it could be done legally in the right circumstances. But I think more psychologists than not would avoid doing it entirely, wouldn't they? Also, it turns out Dr. Phil's show has been involved in a bunch of controversies that most people probably don't remember from a few more years back. He's had some lawsuits thrown at him, including one over some weight loss supplements that he promoted on the show, and he had to settle that for $10.5 million. There was another time where one of Dr. Phil's producers paid bail for the ringleader of a group of teenage girls that beat up another girl because they wanted to make a show out of the incident. Jeez. And at the end of last year, there were allegations from people who'd been on the show to address their substance abuse problems that the crew enabled them to get access to drugs and alcohol to create on-screen drama. The main incident cited was in 2013 when a former winner of the reality TV show Survivor had spiraled into alcohol addiction and was set to appear on the show, had been on a detox program in the lead up to it, but allegedly someone had left a bottle of vodka in his dressing room. Of course, spokespeople for Dr. Phil stated that it wasn't the crew who did that, and obviously it wouldn't be right to say with certainty that they did put it in there, but his appearance on the show that followed that alleged incident shows him apparently so drunk that he can't even move without assistance, could barely say things coherently,
because I didn't know this was happening right now,
and takes part in a breath test that reveals an absolutely ridiculous blood alcohol level. Who the fuck thought it was a good idea to continue with this episode? I would have thought the normal response to going to someone's dressing room before they're due to appear on a show and finding them this physically impaired from alcohol would be to replace his segment on the show with something else and get help, especially when that man has crippling alcoholism. But I guess they just rub their hands together in glee because it makes the story even more dark and thus more compelling to the audience. What the fuck? Actually, why not borrow one of Dr. Phil's most famous catchphrases? What were you thinking? Even if it wasn't one of the show's crew members that put alcohol in his room, then it's still their fault because someone as self-destructive as this definitely needs someone to keep an eye on them at pretty much all times. And the least you could do is to ensure that he doesn't get his hands on the one thing that has almost destroyed his entire life. So they weren't just embarrassing him on live TV, they were also putting his health and safety at risk. Now, with the amount of obviously scripted content I've seen related to Dr. Phil, then I better address the possibility that he could have acted drunk to create the shockingness of the segment. And if that did happen to be the case after all, then it doesn't really change just how pathetic and low this segment was. Who in their right mind would agree to filming this, staged or not? This kind of dirty business is making me wonder, how the fuck does Dr. Phil still have a show? Anyway, to summarize what I've mostly been trying to say in this video, obviously saying Dr. Phil is a shit TV show isn't exactly a revolutionary point. I think most people who watch this video will agree with that. But we need to stop forgetting that idea constantly, start making less fun of the attention-seeking knobheads he features on the show, and put more focus on the man himself that allows all of this to happen. Now Phil, if you're watching this, I do feel like your past is slightly shady in some aspects, but I don't know if it's worth cancelling the whole Dr. Phil show, especially since you do actually help out people with genuine issues. I can accept that. In fact, you don't have to completely overhaul the segments you have, you can keep featuring teens who've done not much more than just argue with their mum a few times. You need to dial back the seriousness of the show when you do segments like that, because it ends up making the entire show a laughing stock. Also, if you're going to feature someone on the show based around their drug addiction, then don't allow them to get their hands on the drug that they're addicted to shortly before they go on the show. And if you fail that and they're clearly intoxicated shortly before you have to go live, then don't let them on the set. And yes, having an actor be blind drunk on the set instead is still in poor taste, you absolute buffoon. Sincerely, Shonky Wonky Donkey. Okay, that's it. So, what did you think of that video? You feel like I said anything wrong, or did you just think that the entire video was a waste of time? I'm definitely open to criticism, so don't be afraid to criticize me in the comments below. But either way, thanks for watching, I guess.
But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down and shoot door. When I'm working, yes I know I'm gonna be the man.